Congressman, first of all, just given the last 24 hours in American politics, it's kind of, there is a sense of chaos here. How real is that sense? Is it kind of heat and noise, or is it substantive?
So I think, look, the political environment at the moment is chaotic. And it's, for those of us in it, it can be, I would appreciate a little more boring at the moment. The reality, though, is that after you get outside of Washington, and I spend about half my time here and half my time at home in my district in Massachusetts, you also are spending a great deal of time with folks that are focused on doing what every other person does, right? Which is trying to keep a roof over your head and food on your plate, your kid in school, and save for retirement. And they're far more focused on the challenges that they confront every day, and not necessarily the rumblings and goings on of what is a bit of chaos inside these buildings. So I think it would behoove all of us in government at the moment to try to do what we can to move towards a more stable footing. I would love to get there. I'm not so sure this administration is going to make that a priority.
I mean, I suppose President Trump would say he wouldn't describe it as chaos, but he would argue that that's exactly what he's trying to do. For example, with his tariffs announcement, that is all about making sure that working class Americans have a chance again to work in industries that have been decimated over the past few years.
The President of the United States continues to say a lot of things, and his policies reflect something different. He has professed to be for working families across this country. He put forth a health care bill that was going to cut health care for working families by $800 billion and strip millions of people from access to health care. He talked about the important impacts of a tax reform bill. The vast majority of those benefits are streamed towards or weighted towards the wealthy and to multinational corporations. The money that has come back overseas from those corporations is being used for stock buybacks predominantly more than anything else. 50% of Americans don't own a single stock. Over 80% of the stocks are controlled by about 10% of American households. that is not reflective of a tax policy that is focused on middle class and working class. He can talk about the import and the impacts of trying to revitalize an American steel and aluminum industry, fine. Rolling this out without conversation with Capitol Hill, without conversation throughout various agencies in the White House and the executive branch, without consensus within his own White House, sows this feeling of chaos and not one of a consistent, reasoned, thoughtful economic policy.
So given that reality, I mean, there are a lot of white working class and middle class Americans who used to vote Democrat who this time around, last election, decided to vote for Donald Trump. What did the Democrats get so wrong that created the possibility for him to win?
Look, I think the Democratic Party has to do, and I think we've done a fair amount of soul searching over the course of the past 18 months or so. The biggest issue here is I think Democrats got to earn back that credibility and win back that credibility. And I think we have to do a better case of articulating the fact that a number of the structural economic challenges that the white working class face are not different, or not all that different, from the challenges that a single mom is facing in our urban centers, to minority families across our country, and trying to address those concerns, recognizing that we're not going to, not falling prey to this or falling victim to a politics that pits one segment of Americans against another. There are real structural challenges that we need to address in this country, both with regards to challenges foreign and domestic. Dividing America up to try to win an election and then continuing on a path of division isn't going to muster the political will that you need to address these concerns. It's a cheap political tactic that might be successful to win an election. It's not going to be successful at governing the country in the long run.
You feel quite angry about the way things are. Is that the right description?
I'm frustrated. It's certainly, look, President Trump won an election, and I understand that, I appreciate that, and he's the President of the United States. He practices a very different form of politics than the one that I believe in. He has professed to be for a middle class and working class in this country, which is where government should be focused. Wealthier families are find plenty of ways to take care of themselves. Middle class families and striving for middle class families might need a little bit of an extra hand. That's where we should be diverting our energy. The policies I think that he has put forth betray that as talking points and not actual substance. And so I do believe that for those of us in the system at the moment, standing up and calling that out when we see it is important, and trying to find ways where we can, in fact, work together to advance the ball forward is critical as well. I hope the administration is willing to reach out a bit more than they have.
I mean, we'll come back to the midterms fast approaching soon, but if you had to build the kind of ideal Democratic opponent to Donald Trump for 2020, if you had to build them from the ground up, what would they look like? What do they need?
I think most importantly for Democrats at this point is to recognize that we need to earn back the credibility and the trust of voters across the country. We are well known, and I think have earned a reputation of standing for people in this country regardless of who you are. So color of your skin, gender of your spouse, person that you love, God of your prayers, that you count, that we stand for civil rights, we stand for equality. Democrats are known for that. That's a core value of who we are, and I think one of the values that actually makes America great. What we also have to recognize is that for families that are struggling to be able to support themselves, to provide for their children, to plan for their future, their anxieties pretty much begin and end at their door. That is their sole focus, and we need to recognize that. And we have to, you can't separate those kind of civil rights from the economic ones that actually make those values come to life. And so we have to do both. Who does that and how we come to that? I think what you need is a big, messy contest to see who can earn that credibility back. There's no shortcuts to this. This is something that has to be earned, and you got to go out there and make your case.
I mean, do you need a white man?
I don't think.
But is it going to take something like that? I mean, he is such a big personality, and it's about persona in part, is it not?
It is absolutely about persona in part, but I don't believe that at this point the American public is going to say you need a woman or a white man or a minority or whatever that is. I don't put as much stress or importance in that. I think whoever is able to go out, articulate a common vision that is able to unite the various different communities that we have across our country, put that forward. Yes, draw a contrast with President Trump, which I think will not be hard, but also articulate a positive vision for what needs to accomplish, what we need as a country to accomplish in order to overcome the challenges that oftentimes President Trump has diagnosed, but has offered no solution to. That's what we need. And I have an awful lot of faith that that is what our nominee is going to be in 2020, is going to be judged on. That's who will beat Donald Trump in 2020. I could care less what he or she looks like, their gender, where they come from, anything else. The importance is that they can articulate that vision and they can earn back that credibility, and they're willing to do it.
Would you want to be part of that big messy contest for 2020?
I have no plans on doing that. I've got a 2-year-old baby and a 10-week-old baby, and so at the moment, sleep is a premium.
Okay. I want to ask this question, and I don't mean it in a rude way, so please don't take offence. But I wonder whether you gave the response to the State of the Union address, and you were widely praised for your effort in doing that. But I wonder whether is there a problem with the idea that when the Democrats reach for someone new and someone fresh to kind of send a new message, that actually they go to a Kennedy, they go to someone in a way who directly relates to the past, who brings the kind of intellectual capital and the historic memory of the party with them. You know, the Clintons, the Bushes, the moment for kind of feudal family politics in America seems past. So is it a problem for a Kennedy? So
I think a couple of points. One, obviously I'm very proud of the contribution my family has made. I've done my best to try to recognize that, but recognize that as a member of the Democratic Party and as an elected official, you got to stand on your own too. And so to articulate what I believe are the values and vision that can unite a Democratic Party, and to try to put the past year of a Trump administration in context to the broader themes that we see and the overall governing philosophy. I don't think that's something that is necessarily made more or less powerful because of what other members of my family have done. I think it is critically important, given that the Democratic Party at its core and at its best aspires to be a Big Tent party, that we have a number of voices in there. Do I think I can contribute to that? Sure, and I'm honored that Leader Pelosi asked me to give that speech. But we've got an awful lot of talent across the country here in our Democratic caucus of younger folks, and more experienced ones that have diverse backgrounds, represent diverse constituencies, that I think their voices on this are going to be an extremely valuable part of this too. I think I have a contribution to make to that, but by no means would I say that at this point in the Democratic Party, there should only be one voice articulating what those values and vision are.
Let's talk about the midterms if we can. One of the things that we are, it seems, seeing already is this extraordinary rise in the number of women who are talking about running. who are getting involved. And yesterday in Texas, I know a lot of the women candidates did particularly well. So that must be encouraging for you. I mean, do you feel like there is the possibility, in real terms, of a new wave of Democrats being elected in the midterms?
Absolutely.
And what would the significance of that be? Why does it matter?
Look, I think, so I absolutely feel that way. I think you're seeing a younger generation start to get really active and engaged in politics in a way that we haven't seen before, or certainly of late. I think that you're seeing an emerging generation that recognizes that what happens in Washington, the policies, the values, the issues that are discussed by our government actually matter and they impact them, and that they're willing to do something about it. And I think that's really exciting because our system as a whole, representative democracy, is going to function better if more people, more of its citizens, roll up their sleeves and dive on in. And that's regardless of your political beliefs or what party you line up with. The more people that are bought into it, the better the debate, the more engaged, the more voices are going to be involved in it, and the better the decisions, the more likely the decisions are going to be reflective of the overall will of the people. I think the idea that we're seeing a wave of young women sign up to run, I think look critically important as we address some of the structural inequities across our country. Everything from unequal pay to representation on boards to my wife and I, obviously with a very young family, confronting issues of what it means to have paid leave, what it means to be able to now raise a family in a country that still lags behind the rest of the world with family-friendly policies, so that families can actually spend the time with bringing a child into this world and nurturing them, and not feel like all of a sudden they're going to sacrifice their ability to pay rent. We're in a different category. We're very blessed to be able not to have to make some of those choices, but being in the midst of it makes you realize how difficult it would be for other families that aren't so fortunate. It's the United States of America. We should be able to make that choice at this point and then make those choices to invest in our families. Our government hasn't done that. And so I think a younger representation, particularly with a number of women stepping forward, provides the opportunity to really force some of these debates into discussion that so far our government really hasn't confronted.
Okay, I'm cognizant of the time. I've got two quick final questions. I mean, one is, last year was actually the deadliest year on record for transgender people in the US. I think 25 people were killed. Do you think that the administration currently even understands or recognises the scale of this problem?
No, not even close. And I don't think they've put any effort into understanding it. I think they've done everything they can to ignore it. We have written letters to this administration trying to get this on their agenda. We, most of the time, don't even get a response. We have been pushing policies that are, I believe, and I think America believes, they are civil rights issues. Look, the bottom line on civil rights is they are laws that try to make sure that we defend. Our government recognizes who you are and recognizes the dignity of every single human being, regardless of color of your skin, your gender identity, the person that you love, we say you count. You count because you're human, you're American, you're here, we see you, we want you. And what this administration is doing is papering over those differences and say that, not you. And I've got a real problem with that. And I think we know in the long run, our America's history is a narrative to become a more tolerant, a more perfect place. We're not there yet. But I have no doubt when historians look back 30, 40, 50 years from now, what they will say about those that try to stand in the way of equal rights and equal representation for all Americans.
Final question. If the House flips, if that happens, why does that matter in the sense that does it potentially increase the chances of the impeachments, the much talked about impeachment proceedings against the president? What does it mean in practical terms?
So it matters because we'll see. Obviously, I'm very optimistic that we will take back the House. I'm hopeful we're able to take back the Senate. But regardless, we're going to have a Republican representation in the White House. Because of arcane procedures here, winning back the House of Representatives so we don't win back the Senate means that it prohibits Republicans from being able to use a policy called reconciliation to be able to pass solely partisan-based legislation. It means that the House Democratic Party can start putting forth and acting on and legislating on a positive vision that is an alternative to what Donald Trump has put forth. It means that the bills that will be signed into law are reflective, far more reflective, of a bipartisan consensus than just the far right Freedom Caucus folks that are essentially hold Republican caucus hostage to anything that they want to come out, that they want to put forward. So it means that you're going to get far more balanced representation and far more balanced bills that are working their way through the process. And I think an oversight of an administration that, as of now, Republicans are doing everything they can not to do. You look at the rhetoric that had come out of a Republican House when President Obama was in office, and how the House was a co-equal branch of government and they were going to act on their policies and put forth their bills and dare the president to sign them or not, to now having a speaker that says that he's only going to put a bill on the floor that President Trump supports. Well, that wasn't what we did for my first 4 years here. To the extent that there's bills that have a majority of support from this body, and there are on immigration, particularly, I think on guns there is as well, then let's have that debate, let's put those bills forward. And I think with the Democratic representation, we'll have that chance.
Could be a game changer.
Yes, it will.